I wanted to reintroduce myself to my community. We have a lot of new people here, so I want to introduce myself. My name is Coach JB, and the reason why I call myself Coach JB, there's a whole story behind that. But I'm going to go all the way back to December 18th, 2006. And the reason why I'm doing this, because I think it's important to be open, transparent, and to build deeper relationships is to know who we are, where we were, where we are, and where we're going. So on December 18th, 2006, I attempted suicide due to a massive opiate addiction. And if you've ever struggled with addiction or been around someone with addiction, it destroys families. My daughter was 3 years old at that point. I took a massive amount of opiates, and I woke up 48 hours later to a phone call from my mom. She had no idea she woke me up from an attempted suicide. And she said, "You need to read a book called The Secret." Now, the interesting thing that I want to share with you guys and why I honor God in everything I do. At that point in my life, I had no relationship with God. I didn't even know Jesus Christ. I was never taught about God. I was never taught about Jesus growing up. Never went to church. Never had no spiritual background. Was not taught about at all. But the interesting thing is right before I attempted suicide, I prayed. And I said, "Dear Father God," and I'm not going to do the prayer, so I'll start crying. And when I woke up from the call from my mom, I went and got the book, The Secret. And I realized that thoughts become things. That was my first introduction to anything internal. My whole life was living in fear, external, looking for edification, trying to prove something to the world, all the way to suicide. So I read a book called The Secret, and I'll speed up the story. And I started to do manifestation, vision boards, and all that stuff, and my life radically transformed fast. Ended up getting a job at a bank, became a banker. I quickly moved up in the bank to vice president, went to CBA Executive Banking School, and through my banking process, I started to go through a great spiritual awakening. Then I started to see the banking system for what it actually is. I realized we weren't helping customers. We're burying them in debt. We're giving them overdraft fees. Back then, we're doing payday loans. It was wild. I don't know if you guys remember that, where you could do a paycheck advance. With people coming in, they're buried in debt, trying to get a paycheck advance. I'm like, this is not financial literacy. This is not helping people, and it just didn't feel right. And in 2017, I walked out of the bank, being a vice president of bank, went through CBA Executive Banking School, and I learned how to scale banks at a deep level. And I walked out of corporate America in 2017 to start these companies. But it wasn't easy. I lost everything in the process. So the first company I started was called JV Impacts, which evolved into 3T Fitness, which evolved into 3T Warrior Academy. So throughout that process, I lost my money twice in the process. The first was building the companies. If you've ever built a company before, the greatest lesson is, number one, is you're going to fail. I failed 5 times. And on the 5th time, it finally exploded. I went through Alex Hormozzi's program, Gym Launch, which we have a gym next door, one of our facilities, and our business exploded. Cinderella dream, or Cinderella story. Or so I thought. I got introduced to crypto 2019, going into 2020. I started to invest deeply into XRP and started to build my ISO portfolio.